Okay, we're still reading Monsters and Magical Sticks. We're starting the chapter basically 8 called Systems, and we've only read the first page, which is just an introduction, a general introduction and a metaphor. So this is entitled, it's page 84, Systems, Getting Started. The first step for you is to listen and pay attention to the way the individual is expressing himself and to less what he is saying. By paying attention to his choice of words, you'll discover what his conscious output system is at that moment in time. The next step is for you to talk in his language. It is at this stage that many therapists and people in general lose their audience. Here's an example of what not to do. The patient, things look just hopeless. I just cannot see a way out of my problem. It's all so black and white. I feel trapped. The therapist, I know how you feel. I've been stuck myself. We can make an effort to get in touch with some solid new choices that can help you feel hope. As you examine the above example, you may find yourself experiencing some unsettling feelings. If so, imagine what the patient might be experiencing. The patient's conscious output system was very clearly visual. As you look over his statements, I'm sure you'll see it. The therapist's response was very heavy into kinesthetic. As a result, the chances of establishing rapport is somewhere between slim and nut. Slim and nut, slim and none. As an example of what to do. Patient, things look just hopeless. I just cannot see a way out of my problem. It's all so black and white. I feel trapped. And the therapist says, I know when things look dark, we can end up feeling trapped. Perhaps two of us can find a different way of looking at this situation. When I have a more clear picture of the situation, I might be able to help you see things you have overlooked. Remember, a box of crayons has many other colors in addition to black and white. As you re-examine the second example, I'm sure you'll easily sense the difference. While our mythical doctor did not say anything concrete, his statements seemed to be right on target. I'd like you to set aside some time to try talking the other's language, to see the results for yourself. In short, listen to the conscious output system and practice putting your responses into the individual's system. I know that if you will pay attention, you will discover how powerful a tool this is. For those of you who like excitement and adventure, practice purposefully talking in a system that is not in your patient's conscious output system. If you watch carefully, you may see that many people will evidence pupillary dilation, altering breath, a blank stare, and a sense of not being there. We could say that they may enter hypnosis. If you'd like to play with that, do this. First, communicate in your patient's output system for several interchanges. Then abruptly switch to another system. Step back, shut up, and observe. Plus versus minus system case study. Once you feel reasonably confident that you have identified the individual's conscious output system in the area of his problem, the next step is to find out if that system changes when he's talking about something that's pleasant. In many cases, there will be a definite switch. You can discover this by saying, for example, when things aren't so unpleasant for you, what do you like to do? When he answers, ask, what do you like most about whatever? If there is a definite switch, you will have some very valuable information. You will know what systems to which to move the individual in order to help him feel better, what system needs cleaning up, and to start communication in the painful system while slowly moving to the one he knows how to feel good in. The following is an example from my practice. I think I should read both, or Billa, are you able to be one of the characters? No. Okay. Okay. Me as the therapist. What brings you here? That is, what would you like to have a new choice about? Patient. I've really been down. I don't have any energy and I just don't care about anything. This was followed by several minutes of kinesthetic comments. Me. Sorry you're feeling so badly. Problems can sometimes feel so heavy that we can feel good and stuck. Patient nods vigorously. Yeah, you have it. I'm just so tired of feeling this way. Me. If I could wave a magic wand and take all those bad feelings away, what would you do that you could enjoy? Patient. Paint. I love to paint. With this statement, there was a noticeable change. Oh, it's a her, in her demeanor, and she appeared to be a little more relaxed. Me. What do you like most about painting? Patient. I like to see the painting take shape. I really enjoy putting the different colors on the canvas. And when I finish, I feel really good just looking at what I've created. At this point, there is a definite shift to a visual output, and she's actually smiling. Me. What else have you seen yourself doing that you're proud of? Patient. Paused. Oh, I know. I once designed a dress from scratch. That may not sound like much to you, but to me, it was a big deal. I looked all over for a pattern that looked like what I wanted, but I couldn't find one. They either looked awful or they wouldn't fit me. So I actually designed my own dress pattern and adjusted it to fit just me. It came out just beautiful and looked great on me. At this point, she's sitting up straight with good eye contact. Her voice is strong and she looks anything but depressed. Me. That's great. You saw that someone else's idea of a pattern didn't fit you and you did something about it. I can see how proud of that you must be. Now I'd like you to do us both a favor. I want you to close your eyes and see yourself designing that pattern and cutting it out. Then I want to see yourself going through all of those steps that led you to creating a pattern and dress that looked just right for you. As soon as you have that picture clear in your mind, I'd like you to signal yes by raising the first finger of your left hand. As I said this, I reached over and lightly stroked that finger with the emphasis on the word yes in the stroking of her finger. I was setting up an ideomotor response. Patient. Okay. She closes her eyes and continues to appear very relaxed. After a time, her finger moves up. Me. Thank you. Now I want you to watch that you who is so deeply in what she is creating, a new pattern. This is the beginning of helping her to disassociate and to focus her on the enjoyment of creating new patterns. I want you to pay attention to how much she is concentrating on the new pattern. The feeling of pleasure, the feeling of the scissors in her hand, the determination to design a beautiful new pattern that fits her and helps her to really look good. I continued to discuss her experience in great detail for close to 20 minutes. I emphasized losing track of time and place, of not paying attention to sore muscles or feelings, of solving the problem of the wrong pattern, of accepting that the patterns designed by others might not be right for her. and that she could choose to discard them and create her own. The patient, she opens her eyes and looks around and sighs. That was quite an experience. At first, the picture was very vague, but then it became very vivid. I felt like I was floating and observing myself. After a while, I could hear your voice, but it was far away, and I don't know if I paid attention. I feel very good. I know I'm looking at things in a different way, but for the life of me, I could not tell you what happened. Me, that sounds like you had a nice learning experience and enjoyed yourself in the process. Now our time is almost up. Patient looks surprised and glances quickly at her watch. But I'd like to ask you something else. How would you like to attempt to paint a beautiful picture or create a new pattern while you were blindfolded that said, so that you had to do it by feelings only? She said, I wouldn't. It would probably be impossible. Even if I could do it, I'm sure it would be frustrating, and I don't think I would enjoy it. I probably wouldn't like to look at the finished product. Me, that's right. I was sure you knew that, and that you only forgot for a while. And now that you see that clearly, I know you'll get the picture and continue to feel better. Patient looks puzzled. What? I don't know if I understand. She smiles and head nods slowly, yes. Me, good. She sees what I mean. I can show you a pleasant surprise. I will see you next week. And this is another case, the second session. Patient, I really had an interesting week. For 3 days after I saw you, I was really floating. Things looked brighter, not only in my life, but even colors. I was much more aware of what was going on around me. On the 4th day, I crashed. I felt just as depressed as before. Me, you don't look depressed now. In fact, you look very good. Patient, I feel great. As I was sitting around being depressed, I suddenly heard your voice. I heard you asking me how I would like to try to paint blindfolded by feelings only. I suddenly realized that I was busy running my life by feelings without looking at other ways. Then I saw myself cutting out a dress pattern that didn't fit me, and if I wanted to change it, I had better make a new pattern. I began to look at what I was doing to make myself so unhappy, and after a while, I saw it. She went on to explain how she would focus on everything that go wrong, thinking crazy thoughts, etc., and how she was making herself look at the whole picture. Now I would like to ask you a question. Me, ask away. Patient, you hypnotized me, didn't you? Me, well, it looked to me as if you decided to go into that state. Patient, well, it was wonderful, only I didn't believe I could be hypnotized. Me, it's nice to see that you are able to learn new ideas. Patient, I didn't tell you before, but I'd gone to a doctor who used hypnosis, and it was a disaster. He kept telling me to feel heavy, to sink down in the chair. The more he told me to feel heavy, the more upset I became. I thought he was telling me to be more down than I already was. So I really fought him, and I never went back. Me, maybe he didn't know how to show you what you need to see. At this point, I gave her a brief lecture on the principles of the systems and pointed out how well she responded to visual communication. Patient, well, that makes sense. When I first closed my eyes, I started to get tense. Then you talked about seeing myself making the pattern, and I started to get the picture in my mind. It seemed very natural. The next thing I knew, I was flying. And now the case review. Let's review the above case together. When she first explained her problem, she was in her kinesthetic system. I began talking to her in that system. I next asked her to recall something pleasant, and she switched into a visual output system. With that information, I was ready to help her have some new choices. I knew that I needed to help her back into her visual system to help her have recall of more pleasant kinesthetic experiences and to use her skills, painting and designing the dress pattern, to create a metaphor that would help her to approach her situation in a new way, a new pattern, and to understand just how she was creating her bad feelings. As you reread this case, I'm sure it will become very clear. Last but not least, her comments regarding her previous experience with hypnosis should give you cause to pause now and recognize the importance of using the individual's system of communication. The next heading is 5 points. Billa, how is this pace? Are you doing well with this? You are. Okay, good. 5 points. There are a few more points about the conscious output system that I'd like to have you get a handle on so that it will be very clear. A visual individual needs some time and space to make their pictures. If you move too close, too quickly, the visual individual will usually respond with anxiety. Once a visual person has evidence that they are comfortable with you, it is then okay to move in slowly and make some physical contact. On the other hand, a kinesthetic individual will feel that you are cold and unfeeling if you sit or stand too far away and don't make some physical contact. These 2 points are important. If you want to blow rapport in a matter of a few seconds, move in very close and touch a visual, and stand back, way back from a kinesthetic. And next, where an individual is in physical pain, they are in a painful kinesthetic system. Helping them to move from kinesthetic into either visual or auditory will produce some profound and interesting changes. In addition, moving an individual slowly from his conscious output system to another system, and then continuing to loop through all 3, will in most cases result in the individual taking a trip to that other state. The next heading is the next step. Once you have ascertained the individual's conscious output system in both the problem area and in a more pleasant area, you are ready for the next major step. It's now time to learn what the unconscious system is. Again, you'll want to find out if there is a shift in the unconscious system where the individual switches from the problem to a more pleasant experience. When you have spotted the unconscious system, you are ready for some powerful work. You have what you need to begin communicating on the 2 levels at once and to produce so-called informal hypnosis without an induction or formal trance. And here's the story. A man enters your office, sits down, and begins to discuss his problem. You have discovered that his conscious output system is kinesthetic, and you are responding in kind. You next discover that his unconscious system is visual. His eyes almost always move up left and then back to you before he speaks. One choice you have is when he finishes a statement, you look up briefly to your right, his left, as he looks at you, then to him, and then talk kinesthetically. When you finish your statement, again, look up briefly to your right. In effect, you are telling him that you understand just how he is creating his experiences and where he keeps finding a source for his problem. Instead of this method, or adding to it, you might choose to be a mind reader. As you talk in his system, kinesthetic, you can slowly change to his unconscious system and tell him what he's doing. Here's an example. I know that you're feeling bad right now, and you're tired of those feelings. And when you become aware of those pictures from your past, moving your eyes up right, his left, as he looks, and learn to stop seeing all that or to change those pictures, you'll be surprised at how quickly you can feel better. With this method, many interesting things can and often do happen. I've had people suddenly recall past events and their attendant pain. In one instance, a man just froze, stopped breathing for several seconds, and then began to cry. He had claimed to have no feelings and to be a cold person. Most often, the individual will just stop and stare, and in many cases, nod his or her head or in some other way affirm what you have just said. Often the individual will simply go into hypnosis. There's no such thing. But if there was, when the individual stops and stares, you may notice pupillary dilation, a marked change in breathing, and other interesting things. Sometimes I simply say, that's right. Now you can close your eyes and drift, and those pictures will soon be that much more clear. The next section is making unconscious conscious. Another powerful approach is to simply help an individual become aware of the relationship between their unconscious system and what they are experiencing. Once they understand it, it is relatively easy to help them learn to stop the process and to change it. Example, a 12-year-old boy, P, with behavioral problems at school. In addition, his parents had informed me that the boy was withdrawn and nearly totally non-communicative. Me. Well, P, what do you think your parents brought you to see me for? P, eyes down, left. I just get into trouble a lot. Me. Sounds to me as if you don't feel too good inside. P. Yeah. Eyes down, left. I feel bad. Me. Before you started to feel bad, what did you like to do for fun? P. Eyes straight ahead, then up left, then straight ahead. Baseball, I guess. That's fun. It makes me feel good. Me. What part of baseball do you feel best about? P. Eyes up left for a split second and then looks at me. I like it all, but hitting is fun. I feel really good when I get hit. Me. I'm glad to know how you know how to feel good. At this point, reached over and touched his arm lightly, but I think it's sad that you've been feeling so bad inside. P, eyes down left. Yeah. Me, you must get real tired of those bad feelings. And I wonder just what that voice is telling you that makes you feel that way. P, head jerks up. What do you mean? Me, I'd like to help you feel better, but I need you to help me. You don't have to tell me any secrets or anything you don't want to. P now looks much more alert and is beginning to interact and talk with increasing ease. P, smiles for the first time. Sure. What do you want me to do? Me. I want you to look up to your left and pretend that you can see yourself getting a really good hit in baseball. P. Okay, that's easy. Eyes up left, nods his head and grins. I can tell by your face that feels good. He nods his head, yes. Now, I want you to look down to your left and find out what happens to your feelings. He eyes down left, body slumps, facial expression changes. I feel sad again and scared. Me, tell yourself, stop. I don't want to feel that way. And then look up to your left and see yourself hitting the ball. He pauses, head moves up, eyes up left, and he smiles. Hey, that's weird. When I told myself to stop, I didn't feel scared anymore. And when I saw myself hitting the ball, I started to feel good. Me, that's great, P. I knew you could do it. Again, touched his arm. Now, I'd like you to practice that all by yourself. I'll just watch. So after several practices, P was having a problem keeping his eyes down to the left. Every time he began to look down to his left, his head, and then his eyes would pop back up. He was also smiling, alert, and very talkative. At this point, I knew the following. P's conscious output system in both his painful area and his success area was kinesthetic. However, there was a definite switch in his unconscious system from auditory, painful, to visual, successful. I also knew that he had some old painful tapes running in his head that were the source of his painful loop. I also knew that the next step was to help him to bring into consciousness the voice or voices he was hearing and what was being said. That was my next task. Me. P, I'd like you to close your eyes and listen to the sound of those voices you've been hearing. You don't need to hear what they're saying, but just the sound. And when you hear that, nod your head. P, head nods. I hear it. Sounds angry, and his body tenses. Me. Now, P, I want you to begin to see the face of the person or persons who match that sound, and then see the whole person at about that time and place those scary things were first said. This procedure was simply moving him from his unconscious auditory to his unconscious visual, which also resulted in P's entering into hypnosis. Before we had finished this portion of the work, he had an arm levitation as well as an ideomotor responses. Me. P nods slowly. Now, see that younger you at about that time in his life when those things had happened that caused him to be sad and afraid. Pause. His head nods, yes. Now, see one of your favorite baseball players taking the younger you by the hand and telling those people to leave you alone and that he's going to protect you. Keep on watching until that younger you looks happy, and then see him growing up, strong and happy. I saw P 2 additional times. After the first session, his parents reported that the change was like magic. He was talkative, helping around the house, and getting along in school. And he told his parents that he didn't like it when they yelled at each other. And then when they did, he was going to go somewhere else and not worry. 2 years later, I saw his mother for another matter, and she reported that his, quote, problems never came back. By the way, I have blown them just as dramatically as I have been successful. I want to stop this for just a minute, if that's okay.
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay, we're going to stop. We're on page 94, systems interruptions, and that's where we'll start next time. Okay, see you next weekend. Bye.
Okay.